Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. The stupid thing about management at most places is that it usually isn't the most qualified person. The most qualified people usually know it's a scam. Every once in a while, there's a good manager like our OP. 95% chance they fell for the scam and thought it would be different. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Go home, we don't need you. A few years ago, I was down on my luck and decided to work for a nationwide pizza chain. I'd worked there at various locations and in every position off and on since I was a teen. At this point, I was 30, so I figured my 15 years of experience should count for something. After a few months of working, I asked how I could move up to manager. Seeing as how I was just as, if not more knowledgeable than the current managers, I thought I'd be a shoo-in. I was told by the regional manager that once I got a vehicle of my own, he would promote me. I found a place that would take a small down payment and lease me a car with an outrageous interest rate. I was desperate to get on my feet, and as long as the job was legit, I'd struggle all I had in order to eventually make it up the ladder. I became a manager and immediately felt like a fool. Apparently, managers only get a $1 raise and are now expected to put up with way more crap than that $1 afforded. We had to clean the entire store on closing shift, sometimes be there until 4 a.m., etc. I was bamboozled, but it was fine. I was on a mission to escape the street life I grew up in. Anyway, about a year into my manager position comes our busiest day of the year. That's right, Super Bowl Sunday. All managers were scheduled to come in at 9 a.m. in order to prep. I arrived promptly and begging the prep tasks. Being on time is something I pride myself in, but I know my coworkers are often late, so I assumed they were just a few minutes behind. Unfortunately, the next manager did not come in until 10 a.m. and was clearly hungover to the point he was no help at all. Each subsequent manager came in 1 hour after another until all 4 of us were finally there. At this point, I was a little upset and exhausted, but whatever, I'm a team player. We just did our jobs and kept moving. The entire day was busy with little to no break time. If you've ever worked pizza on a Super Bowl Sunday, you can imagine the crap show I'm describing. Phones ringing off the hook, ovens packed to the brim, carry-out lobby full. My coworkers and I were like a well-oiled machine. We knew how to work with each other very well. No mistakes, no late orders, busy as hell, but we got this. Then enters the regional manager, Jeff. Jeff and I knew each other since we were teens, as we both had started with the company around the same time. He hasn't worked in a busy store in years. His primary role is to check in at various stores and ensure they had what they needed. But of course, he wanted to jump in and assist us, SMH. Jeff immediately begins dropping food on the floor, packing orders in wrong boxes, routing deliveries improperly, and just about anything else he could do wrong. It was annoying, but we couldn't say anything. Jeff would blame us rather than admit he was effing up. At some point, I decided I could take a few puffs from my cigarette at the back of the store. After all, I'd now been here 12 hours with no break. Cigarette wouldn't take the same time as if I went to take a dump, so why not? I literally took 2 puffs and threw my cigarette out because I heard the phone ring and wanted to help. When I turned around, Jeff was staring at me like I just slept with his wife or something. Before I could say anything, he said, "Oh yeah? Get the F out of here. We don't need you." Mind you, this was 2 hours before the end of my shift. I was the only person here on time, 12 hours with no break, and made no mistakes at all. On top of that, I was scheduled to open the store the next morning. I simply replied, "Sure, Jeff, no worries." I went home and planned my revenge. When I came in the next morning, I put my store key on the manager's desk with a handwritten note, "I'm no longer needed here, I quit." I took a picture on my phone and sent it to my coworkers who I knew would still be sleeping. No one knew until a few hours after the store was supposed to be open. They lost hundreds of dollars. I quickly found a better job with more pay and less responsibility. Today, I make triple what I made then. Apparently, he still brings me up years later, claiming that my mommy must be taking care of me. LOL. And our second story. No broom for the ex, but she got the vacuum. A little over 9 years ago, the ex and I split up. You can only listen to somebody tell you they're leaving so many times before you agree with them, and we were together for almost 25 years. More happened than that on both of our parts. Like her response when I mentioned that I wanted to get another motorcycle, I sold my first one in '99 so we could move. I told her I was thinking about getting another bike, and she replied that at least the house would be paid off when I died on it. She had left and took the car that I was paying for. She had never contributed a dime to it. It was getting towards winter, and I needed the car back. Yes, it's Texas, but it still gets cold in December and January. She finally drove it the 35 miles back to me, and I agreed to take her back to my son's place. She took the rest of her crap that was still at my house and also took the vacuum and carpet scrubber. I found out later she took all my spoons, too. But the blue box store is around the corner. The first thing I told her when we got in the car was not to smoke. I quit a couple years before and really can't stand the smell of it. She wasn't happy, but she agreed. Silent car rides suck, and the radio wasn't much help. I tried to talk to her and was getting one-word replies or just glares. I asked if she wanted me to just STFU and drive. She said, yeah, that would be best. You got it, lady. So begins 25 minutes of very uncomfortable travel. I can hear her clenching the door handle so hard it sounds like it's cracking. She sees a sign for a rest area coming up and tells me to stop so she can have a cigarette. Fine, you got it. She gets out and sits on her butt on the little rock wall, smoking her cigarette and looking PO'd. I sat in the car playing on my phone and making a couple of calls. I hear a knock on the window, and it's her. She tells me she wants her stuff and to leave her there. I ask if she's sure. She says yes. She can't stand to ride with me anymore. Okay, if that's what you want. I got her stuff out, including her vacuum, and left her butt standing at the rest area looking like a homeless maid. Drove away, called my oldest she was living with, and told him he needed to pick up his mom. He laughed when I told him I left her sitting there. And our next story. Small revenge on a bad landlord. Back in the early 90s, my ex-wife, we'll refer to her as P, and I were staying in a mobile home while our house was being built. This fine piece of trailerdom had a landlord that was a very old lady. Since she was starting to suffer from cognitive decline, her daughter-in-law would help her to manage her rental. The problem was that there was no way to directly get hold of the daughter-in-law. This is before cell phones were common. In reality, she should have turned full-time management of the trailer home over to her daughter-in-law from the start. Being winter in western Nevada and absolutely no insulation in the trailer, we were inclined to turn on the gas-fired furnace. Carbon monoxide detectors were becoming a thing, and the furnace looked shady enough to warrant us running to the local Walmart to pick one up. Having procured one of those fancy new widgets, P and I headed home to plug it in. A fine 0.0 reading was obtained. Time to turn on the furnace. The furnace came on and lovely heat was coming out from all the vents. After a few minutes of operation, the CO monitor started going back crap crazy. We shut off the furnace and opened all the windows. We called the landlord and explained what happened. She says she'll take care of it. We closed the windows and went to bed, thinking things will be fixed in the morning. We both go to work, and when we returned, the gas had been shut off. Now we have no heat and no hot water. We called up the landlord to tell her we needed a furnace repairman. We called the gas company and have the gas turned back on. Next day, same cycle. We get home and the gas is shut off again. Finally, the landlord gets her daughter-in-law to call us. We explain the situation. She understands, and soon a furnace repairman comes out and fixes the gaping hole in the exhaust pipe. Yay, heat. 6 months later, P and I are getting ready to move into our brand new home down the street. After we vacated the trailer, the landlord told us to put the keys in an envelope in the mailbox. Now for the petty revenge. We actually had a drawer that had several dozen old/unused/unknown keys in it from many of our moves. We proceeded to take every one of those keys and stuff them in the envelope with the actual keys to the domicile. Good luck finding the right key. And our last story. Steal my lunch? Okay, let's play this game. I recently started to work in an office. Not very happy about it as I prefer working from home, but it's only temporary, so I'm hanging there. Since I'm trying to save money, I take my own lunch instead of eating at one of the many restaurants near the office. Soon after I started, I noticed my food going missing from the break room. After digging a bit, I discovered who the culprit was. One of my coworkers, let's call him M, decided it was okay to take my lunch without asking for almost a week. I had to put a stop to this, but since I had no hard evidence like a video of him eating my stuff, I decided to take justice in my own hands. You see, M is a Muslim and apparently very serious about it, to the point that he has to let everyone know about this at least once a day. Nothing wrong with being serious about your religion, mind you, but when everyone knows you as the Muslim guy because that's the only thing you talk about, you may want to diversify your interests. To me, however, he's known as the lunch looter. Since it's my lunch after all, and I have absolutely no dietary prohibitions, I decided to prepare myself a delicious pork sandwich. Pepperoni, ham, smoked sausage, chorizo, bacon, pork leg, conchinita, even some chicharron for good measure. Oh, and don't forget extra jalapenos. Normally, I don't like them, but I want this one to pack a punch. I'll call it the Squealing Supreme. Surely any person who adheres to religious rules would be a fool to even go near my succulent sandwich, right? Well, seems like M is the type of person to grab food off the fridge without checking it first, which led to hilarious results. At some point before my lunch hour, the office was set off by bloody screams coming from the break room. When someone ran off to check, they found poor M crying about eating pork and saying that someone put non-halal meat in the fridge. This was my cue to get HR involved. The level of drama wouldn't go unnoticed anyway, and catching M eating my sandwich was all I needed to get them on my side. Sadly, the payoff wasn't great. He was let off with a warning, and his excuse for taking my lunch is that I always brought halal food, basically just chicken and vegetables, so he took it. It's not that he thought it was for him, he just said he targeted my stuff because I was the only one bringing clean food. He was still quite pissed, and in the last few days, he's been giving me the death stare. Moral of the story? Don't take people's food. Who knows, maybe they enjoy the food your religion considers sinful. Hey guys, thank you for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.